Hey, Eric Sider here, and I am coming to you post storms here in Sacramento, California, and we've definitely had some damage. Nothing major, but actually was recording this video the other day, and after the storm last night, I basically had to scrap what I said there, and so we're redoing it. And as you can see, I got a palm tree that fell over, which I was very surprised about, but clearly there's some root rot issues going on. I thought for sure the chicken run was gonna just crumple. I mean, it was gusts upwards of 50 miles per hour, which doesn't sound that high in regards to like proper hurricanes and tornadoes, but they're definitely large enough to do damage, and that structure is definitely not designed to have a big wind sail on top of it. So there has been a few joints down at the bottom that snapped, so I'm gonna have to do some repair work. I got more storms coming. I'm definitely gonna have to do some securing. Fingers crossed it makes it through. Got some more mulch because it's just getting muddy and mucky around the chicken area, and it's compost day, so I'm gonna be checking the temperature on that and seeing how we're doing, if we're cooking or not, or if we need to add additional nitrogen. We got the latest shirt hot off the presses. Big shout out to Billy Bond at Permaculture's farm for the inspiration on this one. The prime directive of permaculture, the only ethical decision is to take responsibility for our own existence and that of our children. Links for that will be below. All right, so let's get into it. All right, just to go over some of the damage that we suffered last night. So you can see this palm tree, obviously, I don't know if the proximity to the concrete or what really is going on here, but all these higher roots maybe got cut at some point, and it's potentially just been weak for a while now, but fortunately it just leaned up against the awning there, and we're able to just drop it onto the ground and chop it up and see what we can do with it. I mean, all these fences are all just one bad storm from collapsing. I remember Bill talking about you're never gonna get a straight fence to stay up for very long when you're in a windy area, and I mean, a lot of this wind is buffered because we're in housing in the suburbs, but out on open land, you'd want, I think the zigzag is the how they used to do fences, chalk and log as they call it, takes a bit more material, but definitely a lot stronger. And my poor peas, definitely got trashed. It was a southeasterly storm, so that wind was just ripping right through this way. Sucks too, because they're starting to flower. So I'll go through this, cut off all the broken bits, and hopefully it'll regenerate. Just a bit of a mess going on there, nothing really. As far as the rain, it's all been, the system's been taking the water like a champion. Basically these footpaths, because these are more or less on contour, these garden beds, so the footpaths act like mini swales, so they fill up with water and then slowly soaks in. So it's going to be interesting come summertime to see how much of this residual water is in the soil. There's tons of organic matter, tons of soil life. All that's going to be increasing the water holding capacity. Now, as far as, so this is just all the muddy area. So I got two different mulches. This playground mulch is fine, but it moves around a lot, particularly when it's dry. It's not. So I got this chunkier mulch. It's obviously not as nice to walk on. It's got some sharp bits, but it's going to lock together better. And then I got this shredded cedar underneath that I laid down. So this is basically what I'm trialing here. 2-for-1 job, particularly where it's really getting muddy. So this shredded cedar, it's kind of like this fine shredded bark. So that kind of just locks together and forms a nice mat. And then the chunkier mulch on top. So mostly when my dog's pestering the chickens, running back and forth, kicking up wood chips everywhere, this should do the business there. Since nothing's growing here, I'm just going to be scooping up the compost and probably getting rid of these rocks. They're just more of a pain in the butt than they're not really doing much from a structural standpoint as far as a border goes. I got to trim up all this plastic. I got it pretty much as tight as it's going to get. I did notice in oh shoot, yeah, see, we got ripped up plastic, so I might have to fix that a little bit. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to keep it away from this wall because the plastic gets shredded as it moves in the wind, which is no good. So this is pretty much as tight as it's gonna get, and I just gotta trim off this extra plastic. Got a fair bit down here that hopefully I can reuse for other things. But let's go inside. So I got some more wood shavings, picked up some cedar shavings, so to put down on this front area, which just was getting muddy, so that's definitely helping out a lot. And yeah, so you can see this whole thing shakes a lot. Now, it is supposed to be staked down through the feet, so I've been moving it around and fixing it up so much. Haven't had a chance to properly secure it, and that could have contributed to what happens. You can see this piece down here. The weld broke. I mean, it still fits in there pretty good. Probably, obviously this pipe had lost what it was attached to, but so that piece I'll have to do some reinforcing on. And then there's one more in the corner. This looks like the same thing happened there. I gotta fix up this little opening where the cage drop goes, but I mean, the PVC is still holding up, so we'll see. It's gonna be touch and go with these storms and these winds. Got my 5-gallon bucket weights, so 5-gallon buckets, a little over 40 pounds of weight, so water being about a little over 8 pounds of a gallon, so good way to get some reasonable security. Yeah, so got a bit of work to do to clean up all this mess, and see that fence back there looking like it wants to fall over. Calamansi's still going like a champ, but tons of fruit dropped and a lot of it's going moldy, which is no good. And this is my that's not doing much right now. This is my temporary extra security. Once I get all the plastic trimmed up and set, I'm gonna do this zigzag fastening along the whole way to give the plastic some more support and the structure. Definitely probably can use plenty of reinforcing, but if you're in a really windy area or it's windy all the time, I'm not sure this structure is really the best if you want to cover it for rain protection. Probably a more proper greenhouse that's secured in the ground might be the go. I mean, without the rain cover, the wind would just blow right through it, so it wouldn't even be an issue. But all right, so I got just the super basic compost thermometer. This is the cheapy version from Rio Temp, about 25 bucks or so. I believe this is 20 inches. Now, they do make some really heavy duty ones, like 2-3 feet, and with a nice like reinforced cage around the dial. They're not cheap. They're, I think, upwards of $200-300 bucks maybe, and forget exactly, but I would recommend it if you're on a farm environment or you're gonna have lots of different people using it, because these, if you're not real careful with these, you're gonna break it. I mean, granted, you could buy a lot of these for $300, but most likely they're gonna break at the worst possible time. So let's see what that temperature gets up to. It's definitely not hot, or it would be already well into the active portion. So definitely not in the hot category. Yeah, so, well, I gotta turn it today, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sprinkle in some of this blood meal each turn, and hopefully that will get it going. It's definitely warmer than it was, but not at all as hot as I thought it was gonna be. So, all right, back to it. Okay, I didn't get a chance to turn the compost yesterday because we had another storm come in, and they were saying the winds were going to be even worse. So I was up till dark securing this chicken pen. More or less, it survived. Got a couple adjustments to make, but before we get to the compost, let's see what's cracking there. Okay, the biggest issue is one of the top PVC supports is sagging, and I think I over tightened the plastic and it was stretching, putting too much pressure on the PVC. So fortunately I have a couple extra fittings, and since there's no way I'm going to be able to separate that pipe to slide this over, I was able to make a few cuts, and that will pop right on there, and we'll do another arch and hopefully that will fix that. So this is definitely becoming the Frankensteinium of chicken runs. So you can see that one's already popped on there. So but put this up and see what happens. Okay, we got the extra support up. Granted, the plastic's a little warped and saggy, but we'll see. Got more rain, so it'll definitely be tested out. I feel by the end of these storms I might just have rebuilt this whole contraption. All right, so these things seem like they helped. I had a number of these old wooden stakes lying around, so basically popped one in at every support, tied it off with some 550 cord, and again, if you saw my foraging video, these recycled bike inner tubes. Now they're definitely not going to last very long in the sun, but for a quick fix, they got some stretch and they're pretty strong and kind of lock on themselves. So good temporary tie downs. And if you need, particularly if you need a bit of give, so that's why they're handy for like tarps and things where you don't want it so tight that the material itself is just gonna snap or rip on you. So got that in, and one more here. So I think I'm gonna add two more on this side to keep this from smacking up against these this wall, because it's just so rough, it just shreds the plastic, and having some issues with the plastic as it is. So you can see got some holes where it was attached to the wiggle wire already. After I shifted it, it's got little pinholes, which shouldn't happen after just one adjustment. So see if I can get a refund on that. All right, let's get to some compost. Okay, so I'm going to be turning this compost, and as it's still not getting hot, even with all those good chicken bits, I'm going to be sprinkling this blood meal each turn, and then also have 2 days worth of urine I'm going to add at the end. I'll just make a little hole crater on the top and pour that in, and then see if that doesn't do it, then I'm just gonna let let it play out, and we'll see what happens for the next one. All right, let's get to turning. Okay, I got the compost pile turned, and as I mentioned, periodically I would sprinkle that blood meal in each layer, and then about 3/4 of the way through I dumped the jug of urine. So also the chicken bits weren't 100% processed, so I did my little trick where I threw some chicken feed in the cage and all the chickens went there, and then I made a little pocket and dumped that in there. So if this doesn't do the trick, then I'm just going to let it play out. But one benefit of the compost pile not getting hot, it was chock full of worms, and I mean this whole garden is full of worms. Everywhere I dig there's more worms. So basically if I don't have anything else, I got a compost worm factory. So as Bill says in the designer's manual, everything garden. So it looks like the chickens with their semi-processed compost are creating worms, which is just more food for the chickens. Added the rest of the bag of cedar shavings. I noticed the chickens were giving themselves a bit of a dust bath with the shavings, and it occurred to me that normally I don't even bother with a dust bath because the chickens use the compost as their dust bath, and it's been so wet and soggy they can't do that. So one thing I'm going to add, I'll add a little bin and some sand and also I sprinkled in some diatomaceous earth, so if they got any wee beasties, that should do the trick. And so I was just so focused on the rain and the compost, I didn't even realize there's a missing component there. So always good to check yourself before you wreck your chickens. Yeah, so a couple days I'll check the temperature and see where we're at. New t-shirts, new designs being added all the time. We've got kid sizes and women specific sizes, as well as sweatshirts now. As far as consultation and design, whether in person or online, all my consultations start with a 30-minute video chat. So a lot of your questions and concerns can be addressed in 30 minutes. Go over maps, go over photos. So I will be adding more descriptions on the website. It's a bit light at the moment, so apologies for that. All right, we got more rain coming. Hopefully everything holds up. We'll make the adjustments as needed. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.